Tonight, New Year's Eve 2023, hundreds of thousands of revellers pack the harbour foreshore despite cloudy skies, ready to welcome in the new year. Two train workers killed in a crash in South Australia near the New South Wales border. Moscow hits back against Ukrainian strikes on the Russian border. And the portable brain scanner helmet helping quickly diagnose strokes in regional patients. Good evening, Lydia Feng with ABC News Sunday. Some of the biggest crowds seen in years have packed the Sydney Harbour foreshore for the New Year's Eve fireworks. About 1 million people are expected, with another 400 million tuning in around the world. The bumper turnout followed the state government's scrapping of the ticketing system, meaning access to some of the best vantage points was free for the first time in years, with many at capacity by late afternoon.
As the gates opened at 7 this morning, people were falling over themselves to claim the best view. The Opera House forecourt was like a racetrack, and within minutes, a patchwork of picnic rugs began to cover the prime real estate.
Been on my bucket list for the last 10 years. I'm really excited for the fireworks.
Some arrived at dawn.
I think Sydney is the best New Year's Eve spot in the world.
Others had camped out for the night.
We came here at 2 p.m. yesterday.
It's either all in or not at all.
Their commitment paid off. Mrs Macquarie's Point was declared full by 10:30 a.m. and at Barangaroo, the queue snaked along the foreshore. By midday, the lines were starting to move.
We are going to be seeing our first Sydney fireworks. So we're from South Africa and we're very excited.
Not even the rain could dampen spirits.
We have a lot of food, we have a tent, we have ball games.
The harbour itself crowded with craft of all kinds. In previous years, people have had to pay to enter fireworks vantage points, but this year, access to state government-owned sites by the harbour is free, and that's expected to draw some of the biggest crowds in years.
We are expecting crowd numbers to increase probably back to the 2018 levels.
Not everyone was a fan of the free-for-all.
I think I'd prefer to pay for a spot again. You rock up at 4 o'clock and you got the spot.
It was a slower start at Parramatta Park ahead of fireworks and a free concert. But anyone trying to get into the city is urged to take public transport, with roads closed and turned into tow-away zones. Circular Quay is expected to be a pinch point.
If required during the evening, there will be plans enacted to prevent trains from stopping at that location should the crowds become so dense that it's a risk to let any more people off at that point.
The show will celebrate First Nations culture as well as positivity and hope in troubled times.
We are looking forward to 2024 being a much better year.
And with the shores of the harbour city brimming, 2024 is set to receive a wild welcome.
Happy New Year!
Alexander Lewis, ABC News, Sydney.
And reporter Penny Timms has joined revellers at Mrs Macquarie's Point tonight. Penny, what can people expect to see?
Well, Lydia, anticipation is certainly building down here at the Sydney Harbour. Hundreds of thousands of people have already gathered along the water's edge, and they're all hoping to catch more than just a glimpse of one of the most famous fireworks displays in the world. Tonight is the culmination of 15 months of planning, and it will see 8.5 tonnes of fireworks light up Sydney's skyline. That will be from office buildings off the Sydney Opera House and, of course, the Sydney Bridge. Now, this will happen over 2 displays, the first at 9 o'clock for a family-friendly show, but it will all lead up to the main event, which is the midnight display. That's expected to last for around about 12 minutes, and it will feature hues of the lunar sky, so we're thinking pinks and purples, blue, a little bit of green as well thrown in there. Tonight is also expected to see a real nod to First Nations culture, and part of that will get underway with a special smoking ceremony on the harbour itself. Now, Lydia, one thing is for sure, even if these skies do open up and this rain that's been threatening all day does fall, this is sure to be an epic evening and one not to forget.
It sure will. Thank you, Penny. And the ABC will welcome in the new year with a star-studded celebration broadcasting live from the Sydney Opera House. You can watch the fireworks and all the festivities on ABC TV and ABC iView from 8:30 p.m. In today's other news, world champion cyclist Rowan Dennis has been charged with causing the death of his wife, retired Olympian Melissa Hoskins, after a car crash in Adelaide's inner north. Emergency services were called just after 8 p.m. on Saturday after reports that a woman had been hit by a car. Police said Ms Hoskins suffered serious injuries and was taken to hospital for treatment but died overnight. The 32-year-old was a former Olympic track cyclist and professional road racing cyclist. Police have arrested 33-year-old Rowan Dennis and charged him with causing death by dangerous driving, driving without due care and endangering life. He has been bailed to appear in the Adelaide Magistrates Court in March. 2 train workers have died in a crash between a freight train and a truck near South Australia's border with New South Wales. Police and the Transport Safety Bureau are now investigating the collision, while the barrier highway is expected to be closed for some time.
The aftermath of a crash between a freight train and a truck, which left 2 people dead. Emergency services were called to Bindara Station, 80 kilometres west of Broken Hill, around 10:30 this morning after reports of a collision at a level crossing. 2 train drivers, both from Port Augusta, aged 48 and 57, were killed in the crash. In a statement, the men's employer, Pacific National, said the incident was having a profound impact across the organisation and that their priority was ensuring the highest level of care to the families of the drivers who tragically died. Police say the impact of the crash caused the locomotive to catch fire and that several train carriages, some of which were carrying produce, were now blocking the entire barrier highway. The New South Wales Transport Department says the highway is expected to be closed for some time, with the quickest diversion adding at least an extra 2 hours travel time. The driver of the truck escaped without any injuries and has been taken to Broken Hill Hospital for mandatory drug and alcohol testing. He's been identified as a 75-year-old man from Queensland. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau says an investigation is now underway with experts to gather evidence from the scene and examine the crossing infrastructure. The timeframe of that investigation is yet to be determined. Bill Ormond, ABC News, Coburn.
Ukraine has carried out one of its biggest waves of airstrikes on Russia since the start of the war. At least 22 people, including 2 children, were killed in the southwestern city of Belgorod, near the border with Ukraine. It comes a day after Russia launched a massive aerial bombardment on Ukraine, killing at least 40 people.
Shock and fear on the streets of Russia. Explosions hit the southwestern city of Belgorod on Friday and Saturday. This town is only 40 kilometres from Ukraine's border. It's been hit before during the almost 2-year conflict, but this appears to be the deadliest yet.
Today we experienced the heaviest toll in the last 2 years from shellings by the Ukrainian armed forces.
Ukrainian officials haven't formally claimed the attack, but there's reports Kyiv was trying to strike military targets in the area, with downed parts falling in the city.
It was a strong explosion. I put everyone in the bathroom.
The Kremlin called for an urgent UN Security Council meeting and warned this attack would not go unpunished. Retaliation soon came. Hours later, Russian missiles hit the Ukrainian cities of Kharkiv and Kherson.
What a present Russia gave us for the new year. They bomb residential areas. There are people here. How can they do such a thing?
Russia's president and top military officer had earlier been promoting a battlefield win, claiming the village of Mariinka in the Donetsk region.
By breaking this fortification, our troops have the opportunity to reach a wider operational area now.
Ukraine is reeling from a week of intense Russian strikes which killed dozens, and now warnings further pain could be on the way. Isabella Higgins, ABC News.
Gazan health authorities say nearly 170 Palestinians have been killed in the past 24 hours as Israel ramps up attacks inside the besieged enclave. There's mounting pressure on Israel to do more to allow aid to flow freely amid accusations it's restricting the movement of life-saving supplies. And a warning, this report contains distressing details.
On October 7, Mia Shem was confronted with an agonising life or death decision.
To stay burned to death here or go with him. And I told myself in my head, well, I don't want to die, I want to live.
The 21-year-old was taken hostage at the Supernova Music Festival when it came under attack from Hamas militants. This is the first time she's spoken publicly about her ordeal.
Closed in a dark room, not allowed to talk, not allowed to be seen, to be heard, hidden. There is a terrorist looking at you 24/7, looking, raping you with his eyes.
Shem was one of 78 hostages released as part of an exchange deal with Hamas. But dozens more are still being held inside Gaza. The IDF has released this video purportedly showing the latest airstrikes on Hamas targets. But on the ground, the number of civilian casualties continues to rise.
I never expected this number of deaths. We did not have such numbers in previous wars.
As Israel pushes deeper into central and southern Gaza, it's announced plans to take full control of the Philadelphia corridor with Egypt. The move would place the enclave under Israel's exclusive control and mark a de facto reversal of Israel's 2005 withdrawal from Gaza.
The southern stoppage point must be in our hands. It must be shut. It is clear that any other arrangement would not ensure the demilitarization that we seek.
Israel is already accused of limiting badly needed humanitarian aid through its crossings, but it's condemning suggestions only a small amount of aid is getting through.
We place no limit on the amount of humanitarian supplies which can enter the Strip. Suggesting otherwise is a fallacy.
With the war now in its 13th week, Israel is warning much more fighting is to come before so-called victory is achieved. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
US singer and American Idol judge Paul Abdul has filed a lawsuit accusing a British television executive of sexually assaulting her. Abdul, who rose to fame as a singer in the 1980s, has accused producer Nigel Lithgow of unwanted physical contact. The incidents allegedly occurred on two separate occasions during their work together on American Idol and So You Think Can Dance. Lithgow says he will fight the allegations, saying they are false and deeply offensive. Thousands of travellers have been stranded on both sides of the English Channel after heavy rain in London flooded the high-speed rail tunnel to Europe. All trains linking London to the continent were cancelled, causing travel chaos for thousands of people ahead of New Year's Eve celebrations. It was the second holiday disruption for Eurostar customers following a wildcat strike by French staff a few days before Christmas.
Not a lot of information being given out and a lot of people who don't really seem to know what to do with themselves. A lot of people just sitting down and waiting. Seems like they're in for the long haul. We'll have to wait and see who goes and who doesn't.
British actor Tom Wilkinson, known for his roles in The Full Monty, Michael Clayton and The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, has died aged 75. Wilkinson passed away suddenly in his home, but no cause of death was given. The Oscar-nominated actor had more than 130 film and TV credits, but is remembered by many for playing a former steel mill foreman in the 1997 comedy film The Full Monty. He was recognised for his services to the drama in 2005 when he was appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire. A ban on the importation of sale or single-use disposable vapes comes into effect from tomorrow. It's the first stage of the federal government's vaping crackdown and comes amid what some experts say is an epidemic. Doctors' groups have described it as a massive step forward. Vapes will be limited to those who have a prescription. GPs believe the general ban will help curb the rise in children and young people getting hooked.
From tomorrow, the changes will slowly come into effect with regards to the visibility of vapes on our streets and in the hands of young people, but that it will be action that where Australia leads the world, and that's what we want to see as doctors.
Chronically ill patients are relying on credit cards and even missing meals to cover the cost of medicines. A survey has found 1 in 4 patients is struggling to pay for pharmaceuticals as the cost of living continues to bite. For many, it's the cost of off-the-shelf medicines that really starts to add up.
Not only is Karen Armanasco dealing with terminal neuroendocrine cancer, she's struggling to pay for it too. On top of regular scripts, the grandmother needs off-the-shelf pain medicines, laxatives, vitamins and other chemist items.
Over a period of a month, it's over $300.
It's a constant source of worry.
It's the incontinence. You only get to buy the pull-ups when they're on special because they're so expensive. It stops you from going out because you can't trust your bowels or your bladder.
She's one of many feeling the pinch when it comes to pharmacy goods not listed under the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme, or PBS. They include essential items like pain medicines and gels, sharp spins, asthma spacers, incontinence pads, dressings, or even pregnancy vitamins. Chronic Pain Australia says 1 in 4 patients struggle to afford these products and skip food or fuel to pay.
It's incredibly expensive. What people are telling us that their out-of-pocket expenses for non-PBS items are around $200 a month.
The Australian Patients Association found many turn to credit to cover health costs.
There's been health cost issues for some time now, but the cost of living rises of recent times have really created a serious problem.
And there's little or no help available. The government's pharmaceutical allowance is just $6.60 a fortnight and only covers prescription medications for some people. But there is funding for one condition. These testing strips are covered for diabetics under the National Diabetes Services Scheme. The federal government says it's also lowered the PBS safety net and reduced the co-payment on scripts. Alison Branley, ABC News.
For stroke victims, any delay in diagnosis and treatment can be life-threatening. But in what doctors are calling a postcode lottery, rural patients often don't get the help they need in time. Now, Australian researchers have developed a world-first mini portable brain scanner. It can be used by paramedics at the scene to give patients a diagnosis within minutes.
Champion teenage runner Sean Lockhart had a stroke at 15, but because he lives in rural Queensland, he had just a 3% chance of getting treated within that golden hour.
Sean arrived at the hospital at 4 p.m. and the chopper arrived in Tara at 10 p.m.
A 6-hour delay. It was a very different story for 75-year-old Brisbane stroke patient Colin Knott, who was rushed to the PA stroke unit.
Within 30 minutes, I was up here in the hospital, which is extremely quick.
It's like a postcode lottery. And if you're in rural and remote Australia, particularly more remote parts, you virtually can't access acute stroke treatment.
But through research at the University of Queensland, the world's first brain scanner on wheels and now a mini portable brain device are set to revolutionise stroke care. The ultra-lightweight helmet is designed for road and air ambulances.
The intention is paramedics can carry this device into the scene, run a scan and send those images via telestroke back to a specialist to guide urgent treatment and decision making.
It weighs under 10 kilos and has a ring of 28 antennas that send ultra-high frequency radio signals to detect if it's a clot or a bleed and to be treated accordingly.
It's very comfortable, it's non-invasive, and the whole process takes under 10 minutes.
The scanners are being trialled at major tertiary hospitals in Melbourne, Sydney and here in Brisbane. Then the mini brain scanner will be rolled out in ambulances around the country in a second trial mid next year.
We're reluctant to use words breakthroughs and game changers, but I think the concepts are right. And if these devices are clinically validated, I think the word game changer would not be an exaggeration.
Giving rural stroke victims like Sean
I have no left side peripheral
a better chance. Lexi Hamilton-Smith, ABC News.
A heavy deluge on the state's mid-north coast has caused flash flooding in some areas, with properties inundated. The storm cell lingered over the Coffs region for much of the afternoon, dumping more than 180 millimetres of rain in a few hours. The community of Sawtell was hardest hit, with apartments blocked, cars parked and local roads flooded. A planned fireworks display and carnival in Coffs Harbour has now been cancelled. A severe thunderstorm warning is no longer in place, but the Weather Bureau is forecasting a very soggy New Year's Day. The Royal Australian Mint in Canberra has pressed its last coin with the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II. 500 people turned out this afternoon for a ballot for 10 special tickets to press the last 10 coins. The winners included children and a coin collector from Melbourne. Tomorrow, the Mint will hold a similar event for 100 people to press the first collector coins for 2024, which will have King Charles's effigy. For staff at the Mint, it's a significant moment.
The Mint here, where we all work, was built in 1965, opened in 1965 to bring in decimal currency. So we've only ever minted coins with Her Majesty on them up until recently, when we have got $3.5 million $1 coins with the King out there in circulation now.
Rafael Nadal has revealed he considered retirement ahead of his long-awaited return to singles action at the Brisbane International. It comes as the 22-time Grand Slam champion also hinted there's a high chance this summer will be his last down under.
Back in a familiar surrounding, a place Rafa says holds fond memories. This trip, he'll cherish them even more.
It's a high percentage that's going to be my last time playing here in Australia. But if I am here next year, don't tell me you said going to be your last season, because I didn't say it.
But he did contemplate giving tennis away after needing hip surgery, often spending weeks waking up in pain.
Of course, in the low moments, it's 100% human that you put yourself in a position to say, okay, it makes sense, all the things that I have to do to be back at 37 years old.
A feeling Australia's top-ranked Aussie woman knows all too well.
Has turned it all around in this first set.
Arina Rodionova missed 8 months away with a wrist injury, but scored her first top 50 win in almost 4 years, defeating Martina Trevisan 6-3, 6-2.
I'm feeling really confident on the court, and I'm feeling good, and I'm just, when you have an injury, you just don't take it for granted anymore.
Jessica Stewart, ABC News, Brisbane.
Great Britain has continued its strong start to the United Cup, with Katie Boulter beating American world number 3 Jessica Pegula in 3 sets. Pegula, who was part of the USA's successful Cup side last year, won the opening set before Boulter fought back to clinch the win. Taylor Fritz then overcame a quad complaint to beat Cameron Norrie, setting up a mixed doubles decider. Last night, world number 1 Iga Swiatek continued her dominant form, crushing Brazil's Beatriz Haddad Maia 6-2, 6-2 to win her 12th straight match as Poland beat Brazil. Germany's Angelique Kerber was rusty on her return from maternity leave, losing her singles match before Alexander Zverev won his match, and the pair claimed the doubles to win their tie against Italy. Australia has beaten India by 3 runs in Mumbai to take an unbeatable 2-0 lead in the women's ODI series. Phoebe Litchfield top scored with 63, her second half-century in a row, as Australia posted 8 for 258. Litchfield also took a brilliant diving catch as Jemima Rodriguez was dismissed for 44. Risha Gushish fell only 4 runs short of a century, and Australia maintained its record of never having lost a one-day series against India.
That's not on our mind at all. We're fully aware of just how good this opposition is that we're playing against, and we know we've got to be up to the mark to maintain that record.
2 goals from Millie Farrow have helped Perth Glory defeat the Central Coast Mariners 2-1 in the A-League women's game in Gosford. The Englishwoman Farrow opened the scoring after a Mariners error in the 7th minute and found the back of the net again midway through the second half. The Mariners answered through Roller Bagwire, but the Glory held on to consolidate second place on the ladder. The Newcastle Jets recorded their 4th win of the season with a 3-1 victory at home against Adelaide United. The sport of lacrosse is making a comeback. It's returning to the Olympics for the first time since 1948. And this time it'll feature a women's competition.
This is lacrosse.
Going to goal, she was fouled.
The contact team sport based on games played by Native American tribes, and it can be brutal.
Give it, go back, score!
Lacrosse will also be an Olympic event in Los Angeles in 2028. Its first appearance in 80 years and the first for the women's game.
It's the greatest stage there is for sport, the absolute epitome of sport, and we're just excited.
Modified from the traditional game, the Olympic format will feature 6-a-side rather than 10.
I think it's great for the fans.
It's so fast, it's agile, it incorporates all ends of the field without so much stoppage.
India Williams and Trish Adams are from South Australia, which has won 33 national championships and has a stellar record in developing players who have contributed to Australia's success, highlighted by world titles in 1986 and 2005. 20-year-old Williams is the 3rd generation of her family to wear the green and gold.
My mum's obviously played for Australia, my poppy has, and to know that everyone leading up to this has been a part of creating this for everyone to come is pretty special.
Of course, she can go one better than all in the family.
To have the Olympics as an option for juniors to even look up to is insane.
The likes of Williams won't do it alone. They'll be led by players like Olivia Parker, who by 2028 will be a veteran of the international stage.
It could be my only shot, and I'll be working so hard over the next 4 or 5 years to really push for that position in the Olympic team.
Having the talent and tradition of success is one thing, but for Australia to have a shot at the Olympic podium, it'll need to appoint a coach prepared for the 4-year journey to Los Angeles.
Certainly something I'd love to be considered for. I've coached Australia for a long time now, and I love the sport.
Winding up and shooting for an Olympic goal. Aussies! Alexandra Helmus, ABC News.
Now let's take a look at the weather. It was a cloudy New Year's Eve across Sydney today. It hit 22 in the city, 21 in Campbelltown. Overnight lows were generally near average for this time of year, while maximums were well below average across much of the state. Burke and Moree reached 37. On today's satellite, patchy cloud over the Queensland coast, while a low over the southwest of WA is generating thunderstorms. In New South Wales, Coffs Harbour recorded up to 196 millimetres of rainfall since 9 a.m. today. On tomorrow's chart, a trough will linger near the state's north coast for a few days. Another trough is developing over the inland and is forecast to deepen on Tuesday before moving east. It'll generate showers and thunderstorms for many areas. Around the country for New Year's Day, showers and storms in Brisbane, partly cloudy in Adelaide and Darwin, sunny in Melbourne and Perth. For the northeast, cloudy with a very high chance of showers and a possible thunderstorm, daytime temperatures reaching 30. In the southeast, partly cloudy, a high chance of showers around the Blue Mountains, medium chance elsewhere. The chance of a thunderstorm in the north in the afternoon and early evening. To the west, it'll be mostly sunny, a slight chance of a shower in the far east in the afternoon and evening. Off the coast, winds 20 to 25 knots and seas up to 2 metres. Cloudy for the start of the new year in Sydney tomorrow with a shower or two, a top of 26 in the city, 25 in Parramatta. The sun will rise at 5:46. And further ahead, partly cloudy on Tuesday and Wednesday, daytime temperatures in the high 20s and 30s, then showers for the rest of the week. And that's ABC News Sunday. Thanks for your company this year. From all of us in the newsroom, hope you have a wonderful new year. Good night.